Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was one of the most beloved entertainers of the silent film era, a man whose charm, talent, and physical comedy made audiences laugh across the world. He was known for his gentle personality off-screen and his ability to captivate viewers on screen, combining physical agility with a baby-faced innocence that made his comedy unique. Yet, despite his enormous success, a single weekend and one false rumor completely shattered his life, turning him from one of Hollywood's most celebrated stars into a symbol of scandal, injustice, and lost potential. It all began in September 1921 at the luxurious St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, where Arbuckle was attending a party to celebrate the Labor Day weekend. In what should have been a routine social gathering, a young woman named Virginia Rapp became ill and later died, leading to accusations that would ruin Arbuckle's career. The scandal erupted quickly, fueled by sensational headlines and a press eager to sell papers. Arbuckle, who had never committed a violent act in his life, suddenly found himself accused of a crime so serious that it threatened not only his career, but his very freedom. The trial captured the nation's attention. People from coast to coast debated his guilt or innocence, often without knowing the truth. Newspapers and tabloids published lurid, exaggerated stories, turning Arbuckle into a villain in the eyes of the public. Even after he was eventually acquitted, and the jury acknowledged that a great injustice had been done, Hollywood had already turned its back on him. His films were pulled from theaters, studios refused to hire him, and the man who had once been celebrated for his joyful performances became a cautionary tale of how rumors, lies, and opportunistic legal action could destroy a life. The rise and fall of Fatty Arbuckle is not only a story of scandal but also a tragic tale of talent, ambition, and the cruelty of public perception. To understand how Arbuckle became a target of such ruthless scrutiny, it is important to look at his early life. Roscoe Conkling Arbuckle was born on March 24, 1887, in Smith Center, Kansas, the youngest of 9 children. From the very beginning, his life carried a unique kind of tension. His father, William Goodrich Arbuckle, was a strict man, and the very name he gave his son came from bitterness. He named Roscoe after Senator Roscoe Conkling of New York, a man he reportedly hated, and he carried doubts about his son's parentage because Roscoe was unusually large at birth, weighing more than 13 pounds despite both parents being slim. This suspicion poisoned the bond between father and son, leaving young Roscoe to navigate childhood without the comfort of his father's support. Things grew even more difficult when his mother died in 1898, when Roscoe was only 11 years old. Left largely to his own devices, he took on odd jobs to survive, including work at a local hotel, where he performed tasks ranging from cleaning to assisting guests. While many children at the time still had some measure of safety, Roscoe had to learn to fend for himself at a very young age. Despite these hardships, there were moments of hope. A professional singer noticed Roscoe singing while he worked and recognized a natural talent in him. This singer entered Roscoe in an amateur talent show, a seemingly small event that would set the stage for his future. Though the audience initially grew restless and disinterested, Roscoe panicked in a moment of performance anxiety and did the unexpected. He somersaulted into the orchestra pit. The crowd erupted in laughter. What could have been an embarrassing failure became a triumphant success. That single moment was a turning point, allowing young Roscoe to step into the world of vaudeville, where his natural comedic timing, physical agility, and charming presence would flourish. By his teenage years, Roscoe was fully immersed in performance. In 1904, at the age of 15, he was hired by Sid Grauman to sing illustrated songs at the Unique Theater in San Francisco, earning $17.50 a week, a respectable sum for someone his age. From there, he toured with the Pantages Theater Group, performing on stages in San Francisco, and eventually traveled abroad to places like China and Japan. In 1908, he married fellow performer Minta Duryea, intertwining his personal life even more closely with the performing arts. Early on, Arbuckle was known not only for his comedy, but also for his singing ability. Even the famous operatic tenor Enrico Caruso reportedly heard him perform and suggested that, with proper training, Roscoe could become one of the world's greatest singers. Yet despite this praise, it was comedy, and eventually film, that would define his legacy. In 1913, Roscoe Arbuckle entered the burgeoning world of cinema when he was hired by Mack Sennett at Keystone Studios. Initially, he earned just $3 a day as an extra, but his talent quickly became impossible to ignore. Arbuckle's combination of physical grace and inventive humor made him stand out in a crowded field. Despite weighing between 250 and 300 pounds, he moved with astonishing agility, performing acrobatics, stunts, and elaborate gags that seemed impossible for a man of his size. Co-stars and directors alike were impressed, with Buster Keaton later describing his weight as mostly muscle, and Louise Brooks recalling that dancing with him felt almost effortless. His success at Keystone was meteoric. He appeared in dozens of films in a single year, collaborating with celebrated stars such as Mabel Normand, Harold Lloyd, and Charlie Chaplin. Not only was he prolific, but he was also innovative. Arbuckle refused to make cheap jokes at the expense of his body. Instead, he created comedy that relied on timing, clever movement, and surprising physicality. This approach helped him quickly rise through the ranks, gaining creative control and eventually forming his own production company, the Comique Film Corporation, where he would mentor other performers and direct his own films. One of Arbuckle's most important relationships in his career was with Buster Keaton, a young vaudeville performer who would go on to become a silent film legend in his own right. The two met in 1917, and their bond quickly grew both on and off screen. Arbuckle recognized Keaton's talent immediately, giving him opportunities in his films and encouraging him to learn the craft of filmmaking firsthand. Over the next few years, the two created 14 short films together, combining their individual skills to craft innovative, funny, and visually striking cinema. Arbuckle's generosity toward Keaton demonstrated a side of him often overlooked. He was not only a star but also a mentor, someone willing to help others achieve greatness even as he himself gained fame. Yet despite all of his success, this was the calm before the storm. By 1921, Arbuckle was one of Hollywood's most celebrated actors. He had wealth, fame, and influence in a rapidly growing industry. But all of that would change in a matter of days. A party at the St. Francis Hotel, intended as a celebration, would instead spark one of the most infamous scandals in entertainment history. When Virginia Rappe fell ill and later died, a rumor spread quickly implicating Arbuckle in her death. The accusation was entirely false, but the media and the public were eager to believe a story of scandal and sensationalism. Headlines called him a rapist and murderer, turning public opinion against him almost immediately. The ensuing trials dragged on for months, costing him over $700,000 in legal fees and subjecting him to relentless scrutiny. Even after Arbuckle was acquitted, the damage had already been done. Hollywood studios refused to work with him, theaters pulled his films, and the public had largely turned its back on him. Arbuckle, once a symbol of comedy and joy, was now a cautionary tale of how quickly fame can vanish when rumor and media frenzy take hold. Fatty Arbuckle's story is a tragedy not only because of the scandal itself, but because it overshadowed the extraordinary talent he brought to film. His influence on silent comedy cannot be overstated. He innovated techniques, mentored legendary performers, and created a style of physical comedy that inspired generations. Yet despite his contributions, Arbuckle spent the rest of his life struggling to regain the career and respect he had lost. While he continued to act and direct in smaller projects, the shadow of the scandal lingered. He passed away in 1933, a man whose life had been shaped as much by rumor and public opinion as by his own accomplishments. Today, historians and film enthusiasts look back on Arbuckle with a renewed sense of admiration. His story is a powerful reminder of both the fragility of reputation and the cruelty that can arise from false accusations. It is also a story of resilience, creativity, and the lasting impact of a performer who, despite being unfairly maligned, left an indelible mark on the world of entertainment. By examining his life, we not only celebrate the achievements of a brilliant comedic mind, but also learn a timeless lesson about the consequences of rumor, sensationalism, and the human tendency to rush to judgment. Roscoe Conkling Arbuckle was born on March 24, 1887, in Smith Center, Kansas, the youngest of 9 children. From the very beginning, life was difficult. His father, William Arbuckle, was strict and suspicious. When Roscoe was born weighing more than 13 pounds, his father doubted he was his child. That suspicion poisoned their relationship forever. When his mother died in 1898, Roscoe was only 11. He had to survive on his own, taking odd jobs at a local hotel and finding ways to help his family. Yet, even in hardship, moments of opportunity appeared. While working, he sang for hotel guests. A professional singer noticed his talent and entered him in a local talent contest. At first, the audience grew restless, and it seemed like a disaster. Then, young Roscoe did the unexpected. He somersaulted into the orchestra pit. The crowd erupted in laughter. What could have been a humiliation became the beginning of his career. That single moment launched him into vaudeville, where his natural comedic talent and physical agility would shine for the next decade. By the age of 15, Roscoe was performing professionally, earning his first steady paycheck singing illustrated songs at the Unique Theater in San Francisco. He toured with the Pantages Theater Group, traveled internationally, and eventually married fellow performer Minta Duryea in 1908, although he could sing beautifully, so much so that the famous tenor Enrico Caruso once suggested he could have been a world-class singer. Comedy would become his true calling. In 1913, he joined Mack Sennett at Keystone Studios, starting as an extra for just $3 a day. But his talent could not be ignored. He moved with astonishing grace for a man of his size, performing acrobatics, stunts, and inventive comedy that relied on timing and ingenuity rather than simple slapstick. By 1914, Arbuckle was starring in dozens of films, working alongside legends like Mabel Normand, Harold Lloyd, and Charlie Chaplin, and quickly rising to fame as one of Hollywood's brightest stars. Arbuckle's talent went beyond performance. He wanted to create, direct, and innovate. He eventually formed the Comique Film Corporation, giving him full creative control over his films. One of his most important relationships was with a young vaudeville performer named Buster Keaton. Arbuckle recognized Keaton's talent immediately, giving him parts in his films and teaching him the art of filmmaking firsthand. Together, they produced 14 short films over 3 years, blending clever stunts, physical comedy, and precise timing. Arbuckle wasn't just a star. He was a mentor, shaping the future of silent comedy. His generosity and insight left a lasting mark on the industry. But by 1921, Arbuckle's life was about to change forever. On Labor Day weekend, he attended a party at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco. What should have been a fun gathering turned into a nightmare. Virginia Rapp, a young actress, became ill at the party and later died. A rumor quickly spread. Arbuckle had assaulted her. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, the press sensationalized the story. Headlines screamed that the beloved comedian had committed rape and murder. Arbuckle was arrested, tried, and dragged through a legal and public ordeal that would last months. The trials cost him over $700,000 in legal fees, ruined his reputation, and even after he was acquitted, Hollywood and the public had turned against him. Arbuckle, once celebrated for bringing laughter to millions, became a symbol of scandal and injustice. The scandal destroyed Arbuckle's career. Studios refused to work with him, theaters pulled his films, and the public's trust evaporated. Though he continued to act in smaller projects, the shadow of the St. Francis Hotel scandal lingered. Arbuckle died in 1933 at only 46 years old, a man whose talent had been overshadowed by rumor and fear. Yet history has begun to remember him correctly. Arbuckle pioneered physical comedy, mentored legends like Buster Keaton, and brought innovation to the silent screen. His story serves as a warning about the power of rumors and media frenzy, but also as a celebration of a performer whose genius survived despite tragedy. Roscoe, Fatty, Arbuckle's life is a story of rise, scandal, and resilience. One weekend, one false accusation, and a ruthless media turned a comedy star into a villain in the public eye. But his legacy, his laughter, and his innovations live on. Arbuckle reminds us that talent and kindness can endure even when fame fades and rumors destroy reputations. He may have been silenced in Hollywood, but his story and his influence cannot be erased. Imagine being one of the most beloved stars in the world, adored for your charm, humor, and talent. Then, in a single weekend, your life is destroyed by a rumor. This is what happened to Roscoe, Fatty Arbuckle, one of Hollywood's earliest comedy pioneers. In September 1921, a party at San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel would change everything. A young actress fell ill and died. Newspapers screamed accusations, and the public turned against a man who had done nothing wrong. This is the true story of how a single weekend destroyed a Hollywood superstar's life and legacy. Roscoe Conkling Arbuckle was born on March 24, 1887, in Smith Center, Kansas, the youngest of 9 children. Life was never easy. His father, William Arbuckle, was strict and suspicious. When Roscoe weighed over 13 pounds at birth, unusually large for his slim parents, his father doubted he was truly his child. That doubt poisoned their relationship for the rest of Roscoe's life. When his mother died in 1898, Roscoe was only 11. Without parental support, he learned early how to survive on his own, taking odd jobs at a hotel and finding ways to support himself. Despite this, moments of hope appeared. While singing at work, he caught the attention of a professional singer who entered him in a talent contest. The audience initially grew restless, but when Roscoe somersaulted into the orchestra pit, the crowd erupted in laughter. That small, spontaneous act of courage transformed a potential embarrassment into his first step toward stardom. From that moment, young Roscoe entered vaudeville, where his physical comedy, timing, and charisma would begin to shine. By his mid-teens, Roscoe was performing professionally. In 1904, he joined the Unique Theater in San Francisco, earning $17.50 a week singing illustrated songs. Soon, he toured with the Pantages Theater Group, performing across the United States and even traveling abroad to China and Japan. In 1908, he married fellow performer Minta Duryea, further linking his life to the stage. Though his voice could have made him a world-class singer, so impressive that opera legend Enrico Caruso suggested he leave comedy, Roscoe's destiny lay in laughter. In 1913, he joined Mack Sennett's Keystone Studios as an extra, earning just $3 a day. But Arbuckle's agility and charm were impossible to ignore. Despite weighing over 250 pounds, he moved with astonishing grace. His inventive comedy, full of timing, movement, and charm, set him apart from other performers. Soon, he was starring in dozens of films a year, working with comedy greats like Mabel Normand, Harold Lloyd, and Charlie Chaplin, becoming one of Hollywood's first true comedy superstars. Arbuckle's talent extended beyond performance. He wanted to innovate and create. He formed the Comique Film Corporation, gaining full creative control over his films. There, he discovered and mentored Buster Keaton, recognizing his genius immediately. Arbuckle offered Keaton parts in his films and taught him filmmaking from the ground up. Together, they produced 14 short films over 3 years, blending stunts, clever timing, and inventive comedy. Arbuckle's generosity and mentorship helped shape Keaton into one of cinema's most influential performers. Even as Arbuckle rose to fame, he used his success to elevate others, showing a side of him rarely seen in headlines. But in September 1921, everything changed. Arbuckle attended a Labor Day weekend party at San Francisco's luxurious St. Francis Hotel. A young actress, Virginia Rapp, became ill and later died. Almost immediately, rumors began to spread, claiming Arbuckle had assaulted her. The press seized on the story, publishing sensational headlines, calling him a rapist and murderer. The nation's fascination with scandal turned Arbuckle from a beloved star into a public villain overnight. The allegations, though false, were repeated so often that the public accepted them as fact before any trial occurred. Arbuckle faced 3 trials, each filled with intense scrutiny and media frenzy. The district attorney, seeking fame, exploited the situation, using the scandal to bolster his own reputation. Arbuckle spent months in legal limbo, enduring public attacks and mounting legal fees totaling over $700,000, a staggering sum for the time. The courtroom drama gripped the nation. Every gesture, every word from Arbuckle was analyzed and sensationalized. Even when the jury finally acquitted him, declaring that a great injustice had been done, the public had already condemned him. Hollywood studios refused to hire him. Films were pulled from theaters. Arbuckle's career, built over decades, had been wiped out by rumor, media, and the court of public opinion. The scandal left Arbuckle with little more than his reputation, which had been irreparably damaged. He continued to act in smaller projects, but the shadow of the St. Francis Hotel scandal followed him for the rest of his life. He passed away in 1933 at the age of 46. Arbuckle's story is tragic not because of lack of talent, but because one false rumor destroyed everything he had worked for. Yet, even in this tragedy, his legacy endures. His inventive comedy, his mentorship of future stars, and his contribution to silent film comedy remain undisputed. Arbuckle's story reminds us of the devastating power of rumor and media frenzy, and the fragile nature of fame. Today, historians and film lovers remember Roscoe, Fatty, Arbuckle not for the scandal that ruined him, but for the brilliance he brought to the screen. He pioneered physical comedy, inspired generations of performers, and created a style of humor that balanced grace, timing, and charm. His mentorship of Buster Keaton alone influenced the entire course of silent film comedy. Arbuckle's life is a cautionary tale of how quickly fame can vanish under false accusations, but it is also a celebration of resilience, creativity, and lasting influence. Though one weekend destroyed his public image, his talent and impact cannot be erased. Roscoe Arbuckle may have been silenced in Hollywood, but his story and his genius live on forever. Imagine being one of the most beloved stars in the world, adored for your charm, humor, and talent. Then, in a single weekend, your life is destroyed by a rumor. This is what happened to Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. In September 1921, a party at San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel would change everything. A young actress fell ill and died. Newspapers screamed accusations, and the public turned against a man who had done nothing wrong. This is the true story of how a single weekend shattered Hollywood's first comedy superstar. Roscoe Conkling Arbuckle was born on March 24, 1887, in Smith Center, Kansas,